Hello and welcome to In the Growth Space. This is a show for business leaders who have a hunger and thirst for growth without compromising their values or their priorities. I'm your host, David Kamille, and once again, I'm really glad to have you listening in. If this is your first time listening, thank you for checking us out and welcome. On the show, I like to share stories of growth around business and teams and even personal growth. I love talking with people who have gone on their own growth journey and really who I want to learn from. Now, on today's show, I have a conversation with a new friend of mine named Kamille Thomas. And Kamille is a retired Air Force veteran. She's the author of 2 books. She's an editor. She's a writer. She helps aspiring writers move their book ideas from their head to their hands. I love that. Now, she has a unique way with words, and her work is making waves and change in countries and organizations all over the world. She's been featured in Hoisner International Magazine. She's commanded the stage as a keynote speaker at the 47th Hypnotique Convention in India. And she is a repeat book reviewer for eBookery International. She also is a John Maxwell team speaker, trainer, and coach, and one of only 53 creative intelligence certified coaches in the world. Now, we had a conversation on Facebook Live, and as I listened back to it, I had this idea to take that conversation and bring it here to my podcast audience and really let all of you hear it, because Kamille's growth story and investing in herself is really so powerful. I really wanted you to hear the thought process that Kamille had, especially when she talks about her chain of command. Now, we do talk about turning point, and the reason why we did is because life and growth is a fight for territory, and quite honestly, every inch matters. And I want to fight for your growth and for your dreams. And the issue is that we're in the frame, and so we can't always see the picture. And so sometimes we need to see someone else's story so that we can lean into our own growth. Now, there isn't much time left, but if you've been thinking about getting to the Turning Point Retreat, just remember that we still have the podcast coupon available to our listeners. You can go to www.davidmcglennon.com/turning point and put the word podcast in all caps in the coupon box. Now, we are sold out for the VIP evening with Paul Martinelli. However, the event itself is going to be just so transformational for everyone attending. And I'm so excited to have the people who have registered to be there and really have the opportunity to work with Paul Martinelli in this retreat. So let's go ahead and get into this conversation with Kamille Thomas right now.
Good morning.
There you are, Kamille. How are you?
I'm well. How are you this morning?
I'm so good. I'm so thankful for you to take some time just to share, your thoughts on Turning Point and why you're coming. And so I guess just start there. Why are you coming to Turning Point? What was the catalyst for you to actually register?
Well, when I joined John Maxwell team or the Maxwell Leadership Certification, I think it is now, in 2018. And so the people that I was around kept telling me about this turning point. And then 2 years ago, I joined the Empowered Living, almost 2 years ago now, the Empowered Living community. And all I kept hearing was, oh man, Turning Point, or at Turning Point, I learned this, or at Turning Point. And I'm like, what is this turning point? Yeah. And so the more people that I connected with who had been through, Turning Point, they were saying that it really was a turning point in their lives, in their businesses, in their families, the way that they thought. And I'll be honest, I was like, so when is it? They were like, oh, they're not doing it.
They're not doing it anymore. Yeah.
I was like, no. Everybody was telling me how dynamic Turning Point was. And so I really had this, like, I'll never be able to experience it feeling. And I always hoped that I would be able to. And here we are. So
I love it. I love it.
on it.
Yeah, I'm so glad, and I'm really excited, and it reminds me too of something that I did learn at Turning Point, and that is that when a thought comes into your mind, we need to take action on it, and we need to step towards it, and that's exactly what happened with this event. I had an idea that came to me last summer, and I took action on it, and here we are getting ready for Turning Point. And I'm really excited to be able to share it because it was so impactful for me. And I guess, talk a little bit about your growth journey, because I think that it's interesting to a lot of people to hear other people's growth journeys and what maybe they're anticipating and maybe what they're looking to explore, right? I mean, that's kind of a vague question, but like talk a little bit about your growth journey.
Okay. So well, most people probably don't know, but I retired last year. April 1st will be 1 year from the Air Force. So I spent 25 years in the Air Force in the aircraft maintenance career field. Amazing. And yeah. And so I had these ideas of, I was going to get out and work for an airline, or some of my friends who had been in the military have their own what we call non-destructive inspection or non-destructive testing companies. Okay. And so I was very skilled in my job, and a lot of people were like, hey, when you get out, come work for me. So that's kind of what was in my mind. Yeah. But then there was something else that was always pulling on me. Mm-hmm. So people would always my old supervisor, she did it as a punishment. But she would make me go, and I would have to brief the generals, and I would have to brief, leadership and things like that on various subjects. And anytime they needed somebody to facilitate something, I would do that. Mm-hmm. And so as I went through the ranks, there was this kind of pull, okay, there's something else in you. Maybe aircraft maintenance isn't it for you, Yeah. And then the older I got, I was like, man, coming towards my 40s, I'm almost 40 years old, and I don't want to be climbing in jet engines, and I don't want to go home smelling like jet fuel and covered in smut. And, I was like, I don't want to do that. And true story, right at my 20-year mark, so I did 25 years, but right at my 20-year mark, 20 something, I laid in bed one day and I was like, I have to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. And so,
I understand
that was
that.
This kind of pivotal point in my career in 2018. And I had a dream, and John Maxwell popped up in my dream. And very quickly, I woke up that morning, and literally I was scrolling through my phone before I got out of bed, and there was a John Maxwell ad.
I love it.
So I said, I know phones listen to your conversations, but I didn't know my dreams,
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so I clicked on the ad, and I accepted I signed up or whatever. Yeah. And that began really my intentional growth journey. I had always kind of sought out things. I was in school full time, the whole time, 17 years while I was in the military. Yeah. I have a bunch of useless knowledge. So degree to degree plan, I kept switching. Finally, they were like, you need to pick one and stick with it. And sure. I did that, psychology and human resources, and graduated. But so I've always had this desire to grow. Yeah. I just didn't know how to grow, and I didn't know where I wanted to grow. Yeah. And so joining the John Maxwell team exposed me to people with a totally different mindset. That were going places that I had never even thought were possible for me, or thought that I could, go. Sure. And that's what jump-started that journey for me.
I love that.
So much happened in between, and here I am now.
I love that. That is so great, Kamille. I'm so excited for people to be able to get to meet you and really get to hear from someone who has been on a growth journey and have been intentional about it. And I love that word that you used, intentional, because in a lot of ways that was my growth path. I had been growing, doing a lot of reading. I had always done this tells you how old I am. The cassette tapes, then the CDs that you stick in your car. Finally, I too joined the John Maxwell team. But then I got exposed to Paul Martinelli in the John Maxwell team. And when he opened up Turning Point back in 2016, I went to it, and it impacted me in such a way that it gave me the tools to be able to navigate my own growth and actually navigate my ability to conquer challenges in a lot of ways. And I think that one of the things that holds people back from their own growth journey is that word intentional. It's being intentional and actually like pulling the trigger on a growth journey. And so I'm kind of curious, was there a point in your life that you actually decided that you would spend your own money on yourself? And if so, like, what made you do that?
Okay, so this is another true story, and it sounds kind of crazy, but while in the military, I know that a lot of people were going through the John Maxwell team. And in a lot of cases, especially recruiters and things like that, the unit has training funds. And they have funds, for things outside of just in the military, that if you can prove that you'll use it in your career, that they'll pay for it. And so I had went and looked up all the Air Force instructions and got all the things. And, they were like, yes, it can be done. So I went to my commander at the time and I asked him, I said, hey, because I was teaching leadership courses, I was teaching resilience courses, violence prevention. And I was like, I think that this would help me, in my growth and what I do. And there was this kind of thing then that everybody's like, oh, I missed out on a lot of opportunities, even my senior NCO academy, because they were like, you don't need it. Like, you're already, what do you mean? Yeah. So along my career, I've had to pay for things that other people didn't, because people wouldn't give me the opportunity. They wanted me to do all the things. They wanted me to teach all the classes, but they wouldn't send me to the instructional courses because they were like, you could probably instruct better than that. I'm like, it's not about that,
Yeah, sure.
So with John Maxwell, my commander refused. And I went to him and I said, look, I'm doing all of these things. It's just a couple of days. And he ignored me. He ignored me. And I said, you know what? At that point, I said, what's for me is for me. And this was something that I absolutely wanted to do. So I took my own leave. I paid thousands of dollars, a lot of them, at the time, to pay for it. And I realized that was the first time I really paid for a course of that sort and at that price point.
Sure.
And it was worth every penny that I spent. And it was in that moment that I said, okay, my growth is my responsibility.
Oh, isn't that good?
And I'm going to do it no matter what somebody says. If they don't pay for it, even though they pay for my peer or my neighbor and they denied me, I'm still going to do what I'm purposed to do. And I really felt that strongly about it. And so I just said, I'll take my own leave and I'll, do my thing. And I did. And so that's what started it. And it lit a fire. And personal growth has been very intentional since then.
Yeah, that's so great, Kamille. You said something that I think is really important, and you I'm going to paraphrase, but you bet on yourself, and you took your own growth into your own hands and stepped into that. And I guess, what has that meant to you over the the time frame that you did kind of bet on yourself? What has that meant for you? Because I know that you're part of the Empowered Living mentorship program now, because you're one of the mentors, and I love that. And I think that just being able to hear about that kind of a growth journey is so important for people to hear.
Yes, I did bet on myself, and I actually wrote I was actually going to record it today and post on it, but it was just about that.
Awesome.
Yeah,
the same way.
Yes. Are you folding? Are you holding? Or are you going all in? So look for it. But that was that growth journey. And I'm going to say this: the John Maxwell team introduced me to Paul Martinelli.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard him, I was like, oh. And I remember being in IMC when he was talking, and I wrote in my phone, I do notes, and I had so many Paul Martinelli quotes. And one of them that really stuck with me and resonated, especially on this growth journey, because I always kind of felt I was only kind of female African-American in my position. I had a really weird career path. And so I was one of me, a lot of times. And in a squadron of 500, sometimes we may only have had 20 women. And then, me being the highest ranking woman in that unit. So he said, the uniqueness that is expressed from your soul is the exception to the statistic. And that, I was like, and it sat with me, and I've never forgot that. And it always makes me tear up because people would always be like, why are you in the room? How did you get here? What, who invited you? And I'm like, as if I didn't earn my spot, And it was like, that is what got me in the room. I was purposed to be here. Everybody else may not have been able to do it, but they always say there's something unique about you. And it was the uniqueness, right? So this journey, when I started listening to Paul more, and I'm like, okay, what is he talking about? My mom always says, you guys speak this language. What language are you guys speaking? She came and visited me and, was over here in our conversations and our Zooms. And there was this language. And I was like, there was something about it that drew me to him. And it was that mindset shift. And I knew that I wanted more. I didn't know how to get more. I didn't know where to look for more. But he was telling me, here's how you get more, and I'm like, just zoning in. So long story short, I just began listening to him and listening to him and listening to him. And then again, I decided that it was my responsibility for my personal growth. So I joined the Fully Resource program. And that, I sat with that Fully Resource. I would play it every single day. Then I had to ask for revelation and interpretation because I wasn't at that level of awareness, but I wanted to be at that level of awareness. So as I listened to it and there was things that I didn't understand, I'm like, okay, God, I need interpretation and revelation. I need for you to help me to hear what is really being said underneath it all. And I started getting these aha moments, and I'd be in the car. I was taking my father to chemo and radiation at the time. And I would listen to it on the way and while he was in treatment, and I'd literally be in the car and go, that's what it said. That's what it said. And it just kept coming to me. And so I also invested in the Results Mastermind and a few other things. And the results, it's called Results Mastermind for a reason.
Right.
Because when I start listening to my coaches and they saw something in me that I didn't see at the time, but I trusted them. Because I had learned to trust them over the years, and my results just took off. And I literally switched gears a few months ago from the speaker trainer, coaching lane to writing.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Yes. I did a complete turnover and, I had written a book, 2 books, and then written a book for someone else that's doing pretty well, but I never thought of it as a profession. And I write Facebook posts and things, and everybody's like, you really have a gift for words and for writing. Have you ever considered it? No. This is what I've been facilitating and I'm good at it,
Right.
And so I listened to my coaches. I listened to that voice and I trusted them. And it has completely changed.
Isn't that amazing?
Everything.
Well, I love that, Kamille, because I think that it goes back to something that Paul teaches an awful lot, and that is sometimes it's easier for other people to see the potential in us than it is to see it in ourselves, and that's exactly why we need to be around people that will help us to grow, like a mastermind. And you talked about it. And Turning Point is another way that we can actually take the support of other people and help us to take a really, I'm going to call it a quantum leap to our next level of growth. And it's not necessarily just sitting and getting things and listening to great talks. It's really about doing the deep work. And that's really what Turning Point is all about. And so I guess I'd love to hear from your perspective, since you've never been there yet. What are you expecting at Turning Point? And maybe what are some of your intentions as you go into Turning Point?
Yes. So I've never been, but I've heard so much about it. And I really want to get to a place where I still have some limiting beliefs, and I fight them constantly. And I know that I have come a long way, like an extremely long way in my journey. But I really want to overcome some of those deeper things. And since I've been in these masterminds and around all of these people, I've been doing some deep work on myself, on things that, from the past, things that have holding me back. And I just feel like Turning Point is really going to be, even though I've been extremely blessed, and it's still, it's one of those things that I'm just like, oh, man, this is really happening for me. I never thought it can happen for me. It's happening for my family, which is even bigger for me.
Yeah.
Because we started doing a few months ago, and I'll get to that just a second, a family prayer. And, I came from a family where we've been comfortable and nobody's really done anything outside of the norm. And so we just been praying for a change, a shift in mindset, a shift in what we're comfortable with, a shift in wanting more. And I can't tell you the blessings that have come in my family as a result of it. And it's, I'm able to, one time my aunt's like, Kamille, you pray about this mind thing, however it comes to you, And so there has been a complete shift in my family. And so much so that my youngest daughter, I didn't even know that she listens. But the other day I'm walking, I was telling my other friend, talking about mindset shifts. And she walks by me on the phone with her friend and she goes, Mom, I'm going to use your words. And she starts regurgitating to her friend what I was telling mine. And it was about, you have a choice and, mindset and things. And I was like, she really is listening. But I've seen a change in her as well. And she wrote an essay, and it was about Paul Martinelli. And it changed her perspective on some of the things that Aristotle and Sartre said. And she was comparing their ideology with what she had learned through Paul. Yeah. And I read it and I was like, and she got the highest grade in the class by 20 points.
Wow.
And I said, I see exactly why. But anyway, I said all that, that I want to go deeper. I know that there's more. And the more I dig in, I feel like I'm just at the surface. And I feel like Turning Point is going to be just that for me. It's going to be a huge turning point in my life. And I want to experience that because I want to share it with my family. And I want them to experience the same level of growth and awareness and aha for me, that I've experienced. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
I just love that. And it just makes my heart sing to know that you're coming to Turning Point to be able to really go deeper and to really affect your family as well. And I already know, I can just tell that this is going to be a turning point for you and for your family. And you're going to get to a point where you understand things so much deeper. It's going to be like drinking from a fire hose. I guarantee it. However, it's going to be so impactful. It really is. And I know that there are so many other people who are looking at this event like, should I go? Should I not go? How do I actually make the decision? And I'd love to just maybe hear from you real briefly. And I know we've got to get going here, but what was your decision process like? And I know you've already talked about, hearing about Turning Point and wanting to go, but what really made you say, yes, I want to go because this is going to impact my family. This is going to impact my life. And, kind of talk a little bit about that decision-making process.
Sure. Over the last, 18 months, really. It's been about 20 months now. Being in the empowered living community, it was a different shift. Like I said, it was just people thought differently. They spoke differently. They had different aspirations. And I was looking around and I'm like, man, I wanted that to be me. And then I was like, why not me?
Yeah.
And then I started talking again to my family, and I'm like, and then my family started, reaping the benefits of the things I was doing. My mother, joined some masterminds, and she did the free sales boot camp, and she joined another, thing. And she's like, Paul and Mike are my two, my people now. And so it's funny to hear her say that, but her business, she was not struggling in her business. She was comfortable in her business, and it was okay. But since then, her business has taken off. And it was just like, kind of like the echo of, all the things that I was doing. And so I made the decision because I kept hearing it. And the more I was around everybody, the more I kept saying, why not me? Why not me? What makes everybody else different than me? Why am I, am I relegated to a life of poverty or just comfortability or whatever? Why not me? And then it was something else Paul said, and it kind of struck me. And I was thinking, I said, you know what? There's so much abundance here. And then when I went through the results mastermind, that spirit of opulence, and I wrote one just for me.
Yes.
And I was like, there's so much abundance, yet we're constantly in this mindset of lack. And the more I started looking at things, and even food, we go and food is off the shelves and there's nothing. They say, oh, there's no more food. Yes, there is. The state of Texas can, if they plant it everywhere, can feed the world. Yes. And I'm like, one state in all of the world. Like, we're listening to all these people who don't know anything about anything.
Right.
And it's to keep us in this kind of place. And I was like, I don't want to be that follower anymore. Following the follower or following the blind or whatever. I wanted to be able to think on my own. And Paul teaches us how to think on our own and how to research that. So the decision really was that I wanted more. And I wanted more for my family, and I wanted more for my children, which is the reason why I just reached out and asked about my children.
Yes.
Because I want them to get it earlier than I did. I don't want them to spend 40-something years before they have an aha moment and go, oh, I can change my life. Wow. No, you can change it now. In your school, in your job, wherever you're going, you can change it right now. And so it was bigger than me. And it still is bigger than me. Yeah. And I want other people to know that this is not it in life. This is not all there is. And I know that because over the last 6 months, my life completely changed.
That's amazing. That's so cool, Kamille.
So,
oh my gosh, that's so cool. And I love the fact that you want your kids to come as well. And I'm going to encourage people, if they're listening, that if you want to come and you want to come with your kids, reach out to me, because I will make that available to you. I will find a way to help you to bring your kids, because I think there's nothing better than to have teenagers to learn how to think for themselves, not follow the crowd, to not follow things on social media, but to be able to actually truly think for themselves and see that spirit of opulence and the abundance that is in the world. And I love that you said too, you're grabbing this for me too. It's for me. And I think that too often we think that as selfish, and it's not. And so if you're watching and you're listening and you're hearing about all of this personal growth, or you're listening and hearing about this, this event, and you think, well, maybe that's, not for me, it's for other people. No, this is for you. It really is. And we're gonna go deep. It's not going to be something where you just kind of sit around and take notes. You're going to actually be doing some exercises, and you're going to be digging into that mindset, and then we're going to go out and experience getting some practical application at the ropes course, and even that can frighten people away. And I want to say to them that, look, it's I call it your choose your own adventure. I mean, you can stay at the base camp if you want to. That's totally fine. You can go what we're calling these 3 groups, the base camp, the ridge, or Everest. And so you can kind of choose how high or low you want to go and how far outside of your comfort zone you want to go. but what it does is it helps you to notice that voice that's inside of you, that limiting belief that often comes up when we get outside of our comfort zone. And so it's going to be such an impactful time. And I'm so excited for you, Kamille, and I can't wait for you to experience it. I can't wait for your kids to experience it as well. And for those of you who are listening, I hope that you'll join as well, because we still have a little bit of space left. We are limited in the number of people that can come. And like you said, Kamille, I don't know when Paul will do this again. He wasn't planning to do this, except that I reached out and asked him, and he said yes. And so it really is such an impactful, important event that I want to see as many people as possible to get in. So any final words you'd like to share with people?
I just want to say thank you, because it was something that for the years I had, like I said, heard about. Now I had that kind of FOMO.
Yeah, sure.
And I saw it and I was like, this is not the same turning point. And I read and I'm like, yes, this is it. So I joined back in December when you had the special.
Yes.
Came out. So I want to say thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. And for everybody else who's on the fence. I can tell you, Paul says it, and I say it to everybody, the only investment that never loses its value is the one that you invest in yourself. And when I tell you, knowledge is something that no one can take away, but it multiplies. It multiplies. Yeah. It multiplies. You give it away all the time. It changes the way you talk. It changes the way you walk and operate and deal with people. And it's such a diverse set of people. And I've learned so much over the last couple of years that you just got to do it. You have to bet on yourself. Like David said, you have to really just ask yourself, am I worth it? And even if you don't think you are, you really are. You
really are.
Beliefs that you're not, you really are. And I say, just take a chance. What's the worst that could happen? You'll be in the same spot that you were. Okay, you were comfortable there anyway. But what if? What if things change for you? What if your life changes and it goes somewhere that you never imagined or you only imagined? I think it's worth it.
I love that, Kamille. And you just triggered another thought for me, because there was somebody who is coming to Turning Point who asked that same question, am I worth it? And ultimately, the answer was yes. And I will also say that they had to borrow somebody else's belief to get themselves there. And so if you have to borrow somebody else's belief, if you're watching this and you have to borrow somebody else's belief, borrow mine, borrow Kamille's, because we believe in you. You are worth it. And we want you to experience this event, because it can take you places that you never thought you could go. I mean, honestly. And I think the other thing that was really impactful that you just said is like taking action. Just taking action on the things that come to your mind. That's exactly what you did. You took action and you took it right away, which I love. And that's exactly what happened with me with this whole event. I took action on a thought that came to me in my morning ritual time when I was just in some meditation, and this thought came into my mind, and I thought, we need to have another Turning Point. This was such an impactful time for me. And I know it's going to be an impactful time for those who will get to come and experience it. So thanks for being with me. Thanks for sharing your anticipation. I can't wait to be there with you. We're just about a month away. So matter of fact, the 21st is our VIP evening. And for those of you who are watching, I know our VIP evening is almost filled. We've got just a couple more slots. So if you want to join us and come to the Turning Point and join the VIP evening, make sure you take advantage of that. But Kamille, thank you so much. Thanks for being here. Can't wait to have you experience Turning Point, and really looking forward to it, my friend.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited as well. I can't wait.
You bet.
I always love conversations like this. And first of all, I know there was a little bit of issue with the audio quality because it was recorded on Facebook. But nonetheless, there were so many great takeaways, I think, from what Kamille's growth story, what she shared with us. One of the things that she talked about as her catalyst to register for a Turning Point was that she had heard so much from others who had been to it, and they had had such breakthroughs. And I think that it's always really impactful to be around other people and hear from people who've experienced growth, because then it makes you want it too. The other point that I think was really interesting, especially for someone who has been in the service, but it's true for really everybody, I believe, is that transitions and seasons of our lives can be really true turning points. And there is sometimes this sensing that there's something more for me. And I see that as a common theme for leaders, especially as they're transitioning through different seasons of their lives. There's a sense of wanting to uncover purpose and meaning in life. And so we go on these quests to find them and find meaning. And for some leaders, it's a destructive quest. Of course, it doesn't have to be. And for others, of course, it's one that awakens them and liberates them and actually gives them a sense of direction and purpose. The other thing that Kamille shared that I often hear from other, especially emerging leaders and maybe even leaders who are advancing, but I hear things like, I want to grow, but I just don't know how. And I would say if that's you, I would recommend that you find either a group that you can be a part of, like one of my inner circle groups. We've got really a group for everyone, whether you're an emerging leader, you're an advancing and growing leader, or you're an executive leader. We have groups for all of the people in the leadership growth path. And the benefit that gives you is that you're around other growth mindset people, and you can be challenged by them, and you can pick up on their way of thinking and their way of being as you're around them. And that's really what Kamille did, not only by joining the John Maxwell team, but also being part of a mastermind group, and which is really just like, one of my inner circle groups. Another thing that Kamille shared that I really like to pull out is that she was able to really make a decision. She pulled the trigger and spent money on herself. And, she did it despite external circumstances. And when you can do that, when you can spend money on yourself despite the external circumstances, that's the beginning of really being able to live from the inside out. And what I mean by that is that, it's understanding that if I begin to invest in myself and invest in my thinking, invest in my mindset, I'm investing in the part of me that can affect my external circumstances for years to come, and I can become the causative factor. So I just want to encourage you to bet on yourself. The other thing that Kamille shared, and I think it's really important, is that it's my responsibility to grow, and it's my responsibility for my own growth, and I have to be intentional about it. Lastly, I think the things that she shared about her kids, she's bringing her teenager to a turning point, and I'm so excited to hear parents who are really intentional with their teenagers' growth. I never had that as something that I could do because I didn't know it was a thing when my kids were growing up. But she's bringing her daughter to turning point, and I think that is really a great example because they're always listening. And I guess the last thing I'll share here is that the question that she asked herself, why not me? Why not me? And I guess I'll pose that to you. Why not you? Do you want more? You can change that. You can invest in your own growth. And the only investment that never loses its value is the one that you make in yourself. And I loved that quote from Kamille. So I just want to encourage you to take action when you get it, when you have an idea, take action on it. And just remember that you don't have to know all 34 steps to get an outcome. You just have to know the first one. If I knew all 150 steps that I had to take to put Turning Point on, I'm not sure I would have ever taken the first one. So I did just take just the first one. So I hope this has been a great episode for you, for getting some really nuggets of personal growth from it. I really want to just thank you for listening in. And if you would do me just one quick favor, would you go out and give a rating and give a review for the podcast? It really will help us to reach other leaders. We're really grateful for our subscribers and our leaders, and we hope that you will subscribe. So until next time, stay in that growth space and be well.